You know that feeling, right? You're just drowning in this ocean of digital stuff. All these articles, notes, files you save for later. But let's be real, later almost never shows up. Well, what if there was a system that did more than just store all that knowledge? What if it could actually understand it, reason with it, and then act on it for you? That's the huge idea we're going to unpack today, the ThirdBrAIn OS.
So to really get what a third brain is, we've got to follow a clear path. First, we'll nail down the information problem that honestly we all face. Then we'll look back at the second brain, a concept you might have heard of, before we jump into the future, the third brain itself. We'll look at its architecture, its workflow, the whole shebang. By the end, you'll see this massive difference between just organizing stuff and actually operating with it.
Okay, so this first section really gets right to the heart of it. We all collect things, right? Articles, notes, random ideas. We hope we're building this amazing personal knowledge base. But if we're being honest with ourselves, a lot of it just ends up in a digital graveyard. The real goal isn't just to have more information, it's to create something valuable from it. So the question is, are you a hoarder or are you an operator? To try and fix this whole digital hoarding problem, this really popular idea came along called the second brain. Now, if you haven't heard of it, don't worry, the concept's actually pretty simple. You basically create an external digital system to capture and organize all your thoughts and learnings. It's meant to be like an extension of your own mind. But, and this is the critical question, does that system actually help you create? Or has it just become a really pretty filing cabinet for all that data? So let's take a closer look at that foundational concept. And look, let's be clear, the second brain was a revolutionary idea for managing your personal knowledge. It gave us a way to offload our memory and pull up information whenever we needed it, which was a huge step forward. Okay, I want you to focus just on the left side of this slide for a moment. This is the past. The second brain's main job, storage and recall. And the method, when you really boil it down, is about hoarding information, even if it's in nice, neat folders. Now, the biggest danger here, what they call its failure mode, is information chaos. That's that moment you have so many notes that finding anything that actually matters is basically impossible. And how do you measure success? By the sheer volume of notes you stored. It's a library, a really well-organized digital library, but a library nonetheless. But what if we could be more than just a passive digital librarian? This is where the whole idea takes a massive leap from the past into the future. It's time to talk about the third brain. A system that isn't just about storing things, but about synthesis and, the most important part, action. All right, now shift your focus over to the right side of the slide, and you'll see the contrast just pop. The third brain's purpose is totally different. It's all about synthesis and action. The method isn't hoarding. It's called a continuous intelligence pipeline. You can think of that like an automated assembly line for your ideas. Information comes in, it gets processed and connected, and a finished product comes out the other end. Success isn't measured by how many notes you have, but by the value of what you create. As it says right at the bottom, this is a system built to connect, reason, and execute. So how in the world does this actually work? Let's peel back the layers and take a look inside the architecture that makes this intelligent system tick. So the third brain isn't just one app. It's a modular 4-layer stack. Let's walk through it real quick. At the very bottom, you've got layer 1, the core hub. That's where all your raw data lives, safe and sound. Right on top of that is layer 2, visual intelligence, which lets you think spatially, not just in boring lists. Layer 3 is the real powerhouse, the agentic engine, which is basically the brains of the operation. And finally, layer 4, the output layer, is what takes all that intelligence and turns it into polished, finished work. See how each layer builds right on top of the one below it? All right, let's start at the foundation with layer 1, the core hub. This whole thing is built on what's called a local-first architecture. All that means is your data lives right there on your device, not in some random cloud. That gives you total privacy and ownership. It uses Markdown, which are just simple plain text files. The big advantage there is that your notes will be readable by any computer pretty much forever. So this isn't just a digital bucket for your thoughts, it's designed to be a living system where new ideas can actually emerge. Layer 2 is all about changing how you think, getting you away from linear text and into spatial thinking. I mean, our brains don't always work in neat outlines, right? Here, you can actually map out your ideas visually. You've got tools like Xdraw, which is like an infinite whiteboard for brainstorming, and Draw.io for when you need more precise technical diagrams. The real key, though, is that these visuals are embedded right inside your notes, so you can map out complex stuff without ever breaking your creative flow. And now, we get to the powerhouse. Layer 3, the agentic engine.
This is the magic that transforms your pile of notes into what's called a natural language IDE. Now, an IDE is kind of like a programmer's high-tech workshop. This layer turns your notes into a workshop where you are the manager, and you give commands in plain English. It's context-aware, so it can read your notes to understand a project's background, and it's fully integrated, so you can tell it to do research or write code without ever having to switch apps. It's all right there.
And this diagram shows you exactly how that engine works. See, you don't just have one generic AI that knows a little about everything. Instead, a central dispatcher agent acts like a project manager. It takes your request and routes it to the right specialist for the job. Need a complex system designed? It sends it to the architect agent. Need to rewrite a report to make it better? That's a job for the refactor agent. This specialization is what ensures you get way higher quality results.
So, after all that thinking and processing, how do you get from a bunch of raw notes to a final, polished product? Well, that's where Layer 4 comes in. Here, your rough text notes get fed into an AI design partner. This tool acts like you have an entire design team on call. It automatically restructures your content, finds relevant images, applies your branding, and spits out a beautiful, interactive presentation. This is a huge leap away from boring old slideshows. We're talking about creating living, shareable web assets.
So we've seen all the individual layers. Now let's put it all together and see what this end-to-end workflow actually looks like in action.
It all comes together in this 4-stage pipeline. Let's just walk right through it. First, you capture your raw data and ideas into the core hub. Next, you synthesize that information, using those visual tools to map out the logic and see where the gaps are. After that, you execute. This is where you unleash the AI agents to expand on your research, apply different frameworks, or rewrite your content. And finally, you publish, automatically generating that final client-ready asset. It's a complete system that takes you from a fuzzy idea all the way to a finished presentation.
And this whole workflow is really pointing towards a much bigger vision, something called continuous intelligence. The idea is to build a central nervous system for your work, or maybe for your whole organization. It's a feedback loop. Data comes in, AI agents reason on it, humans give feedback on the results, and the system learns and gets better. The ultimate goal, as you see there at the bottom, is for the entire system to learn from every single interaction, just like a human brain does.
So let's bring it all home with the core philosophy, the big idea behind this entire system. It's a fundamental shift in how we think about our knowledge. This one phrase is the mantra for the whole system. Stop organizing, start operating. That endless cycle of tagging, filing, and reorganizing our notes, it's a productivity trap. The goal isn't to build a perfect, museum-quality organizational system. The goal is to operate, to execute, and to create something valuable.
So, to wrap this whole concept up, it really boils down to 3 key takeaways. First, move beyond storage. The goal is active execution, not just passively hoarding information. Second, the tech is here. These powerful natural language environments, they aren't science fiction anymore. They're ready to go right now. And third, build the system. You can start architecting a system like this for yourself today and really begin turning your information into intelligent, valuable action.
And that leaves us with one last really powerful question. This shift isn't just about being a little more productive. It's about unlocking brand new capabilities. So if your entire personal library of knowledge, all those articles, books, and notes, could suddenly become an active partner in your work, what would you empower it to do? What would you build first?